y'all, it's Bridget Catchall with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is the amazing Judy Henderson. She's the author of When the Light Finds Us. It's a powerful story. She is here to share why she wrote that. And I'm so glad you're here, Judy. Can you say hi?
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Bridget, and I appreciate you having me on. I so look forward to our conversation here.
Yeah, we were blabbing a lot before we hit record. So
Yes, we were.
that's what you have to do to kind of get the vibe. And
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing, and that's what we need to focus more on. And it's just to connect at a real level. I think real is like resilient, empowered, authentic living. That's kind of where I came up with that acronym. And you, Judy, definitely have experienced, people who don't know you, I wouldn't say traumatic, but what you had to deal with was crazy, is my understanding.
Yeah.
So that's probably, I guess, what prompted you to write When the Light Finds Us? Can you share what prompted that? Why did you want to write that book?
Well, I went through all this from early childhood and then became, in a situation where I was not able to have my freedom, for a number of years and 36 years. So it was like there has to be a purpose in this. There has to be a purpose. What am I supposed to do with this? Because of course I was extremely angry, over what occurred whenever I wasn't guilty of what they accused me of. And I spent 36 years in prison. So I thought, there's two things you can do with anger. You can either get bitter or you can get better. And I chose better because anger is such an energy zapper. All that negative energy and, the turmoil that you put yourself through because you choose to be angry. We choose our emotions and we can control them or let them control us. And so I just had to figure out why all of this occurred, how this came about. And so because I was a battered woman, and I was had a mindset of whatever you need me to do, I will take care of you. I'm the caretaker. Let me make you happy, and didn't think about my happiness, and what I wanted. And I feel we're each responsible for our own happiness, not depending on somebody else to make us happy. So whenever this occurred, I thought, everybody kept telling me, Judy, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. I actually thought I was going to come home and live a quiet life with my children and grandchildren. And then somebody said, Judy, you need to write a book because what you have gone through is amazing, and you've gotten to the other side of it and become the person you are today because of it. So that's why I'm sitting here in front of you. I feel that there is an important message in my journey, and this is why God created me, was to go through this journey and see what I can do with it for others.
I like the positive perspective you're taking, because some people downplay that, but I think it's important. And you obviously, that's what brought you through all this.
Exactly.
The stress. And I think you're right. We can control our emotions. It's how you react or not react to something, right?
Exactly. Yes, that is so true. So we have to decide, what kind of life do you want? Do you always want to be a victim, or do you want to be a victor?
I love that.
Yes. And so what I went through, I was a victim. However, I chose not to have that title. I chose not to be that person. I chose to be something that I could control and not allow other people to dictate how my life was going to be. And you're not going to tell me I'm going to die in prison, because I am going to die a free woman, and I'm going to have a beautiful life.
This is a great example of the right mindset that helped you get through all that. And I agree with you. I don't like when something happens to you, you don't want to define yourself, because that's it creates your personality, how you're going to react to everybody else. And,
yes.
and you don't want to, you just want to be a good role model, and that's what you've done. You are a good role model for all the other women, not just women, but other people in general. And as you're, so what prompted you? I mean, what happened to why you got arrested? I was just curious on that. What was a short story behind that?
Okay, the short story is I was married for 12 years to an abuser, and I finally had the courage to break that and get away. And I ended up dating somebody that I thought was had been in the ministry. He was very charismatic. He wore a three-piece suit. He was very intelligent, and he was a real estate broker. And he he communicated well with my children. I have a daughter that was 13 at the time and a son that was 3. So having them happy and having somebody around them that was a positive in their life was very important to me, because I carried such guilt having to take them from their father. This wasn't something whenever I got married that I thought would ever happen. My mother always drilled in I'm the oldest of 8. So that when you marry, it's for life. You don't get a divorce. And in my generation, that's what you did. You stuck it out no matter what. You think you can change somebody. That's not your job to change somebody. And if you try to change somebody, it's changing you too. And you're putting out a lot of energy that you have no control over. So, whenever I met my co-defendant, things went really well. And then he ended up being somebody that I had no idea that he was. I didn't know he had a different kind of life until this murder happened. And he committed the murder, and he was acquitted by a jury, and I was convicted. And what the biggest conflict was, we had the same attorney representing both of us. And I later, hindsight, of course, hindsight always gives us so many, red flags that we missed. And it was seeing that the only reason he wanted the attorney to represent him also is because, one, I couldn't testify against him, and because it would hurt the attorney's other case, which was my co-defendant. So, and he wanted to hear our strategy. What was our game plan? He didn't want to think I was going to throw him under the bus, in other words. So he had a hands-on role in every meeting and knew what our strategy was, which actually was no strategy whatsoever, to be honest with you, Brittany. But he ended up seeing 2 other attorneys on the side while I was meeting, and we were meeting with the attorney that represented us at the moment. And then when I was convicted, he fired that attorney and went with these other 2 attorneys and got acquitted.
Wow. That's,
yeah,
that's scary.
Yes, it was.
I can just imagine the fear. Then you had 2 young kids at the time.
Yes.
And that's even harder, I think, because you want to be there for them. Were you able to, I guess they would be able to visit you at all when you were?
Yes, I had a very, very extremely supportive family. We were close all during my growing up, and we still remain close to this day. Of course, I've lost some of my siblings while I was incarcerated and my parents while I was incarcerated. But yes, they made sure that my children came to see me, except for my son. He could come to see me till he was 5, and then his father wouldn't let him come anymore.
Oh, wow.
And so I never saw him again. And it's in the book, When the Light Finds Us, is he came to the prison at 16 thinking he could just walk in. He had no concept of actually what it was like. Thinking he could just walk through a secured, gated, alarmed fence and see his mother. And so that was another little miracle that happened in my journey. That there are several miracles in the book that you will see as you read it, that I could have been killed twice. There was 2 contracts put out. And one of them was while I was incarcerated. So that tells you this journey took so many different turns and could have went awry to where I wouldn't be sitting here with you today, Brittany.
Right. And as you're saying it to me, the struggles, I think hope probably had a lot to do in faith, right? To get through all this.
Absolutely. When I went to prison, everybody said, you know, you're going to die here. You know, you're going to die here. And I said, no, I'm not. No, I'm going home. They said, well, not with life in 50, you're not. I said, yes, I will. Even wardens would tell me when they would come to me and say, Judy, will you help me, set up a lifer's dorm? And I would say, yes, of course I will. And I said, but I won't be here, to utilize it for very long. And they said, Judy, come on now, you're going to die here. So let's just try to make things comfortable. And so there was no encouragement or no, come on, you got to stand up. Let's fight. Let's do this. I had to do this on my own. I had to grab myself by the bootstraps and say, this is not right. And I am going to fight. I may have been a weak woman at one time, but that woman is gone and she will never return.
You learned from all this.
I did. Yes.
Found your strength.
Yes. And it's funny because it wasn't the judicial system that freed me. It was clemencies I had to do to the governor. And I did these from 1982 till I was released. And it was the 7th governor, the number of completion, that governor, he did the release. The first time in the history of Missouri that a governor went to a prison in his first term. He hadn't even been, I guess he was a governor for a year and a month whenever he came to the prison to release me and then gave me a full pardon.
Wow. That's good. I mean, you were persistent, and that shows you the strength of resilience, right? That's an example. Some people think that word's used a little too much, but I think this is a great example of your resilience got you through all this, and your tenacity. There's so many words you could use.
Yes. And, while I was there, I thought, you know what? They want me. They want to keep me. They want to pay for me. So I'm going to utilize every program that I can. I'm going to get everything I can during this period and walk out of here educated, strong, brave, and King Kong. Come on with it.
To go back to the book, so people encourage you to do that. You had someone help you put it together, I'm assuming?
No, actually, I did not know how to put a clemency together. Attorneys, whenever they go to law school, because after I was released, then I started speaking at different law schools, and I would have roundtables with law students explaining the clemency process. Because that was not something that they actually taught in law school. So after I started doing clemencies and helping other women do clemencies, and they got out before I did, lifers. And so it was bittersweet, but of course I was extremely happy that they were leaving, going home to their families and their children. But I had to learn by trial and error. The first one I did was like 2 pages. The last one I did was like volumes. Of everything I did. You have to be very transparent. You have to turn your life upside down and tell them every detail of what's happened to make them feel like that you warrant a release from prison, that you deserve that you would be the kind of person that they would want living next door to them.
That's good.
So you have to start preparing this whenever you come in. And because prison isn't a place where they want you to, some states are work states, some states are rehabilitation states. Missouri is supposed to be one. I think maybe they're better at it than they were at one time. But I received more rehabilitation when they sent me away for 4 years to get me away from my family because they were so supportive. Which that's in the book, When the Light Finds Us, of why I was sent to Arizona. And
wow.
that's supposed to be a state where they sent all the incorrigible offenders from other states. So, but they had such good rehabilitation. They had therapies, they had adults molested as children. So that's actually where I started learning about why I walked the path that I walked. I learned about battered women whenever I was in the Missouri prison, and that I was one because those terms were never used back then. And so I started my therapy. I actually did fitness before I was incarcerated, but I became a certified personal trainer and group trainer. I became a dog trainer. I became a certified paralegal. I became a hairdresser. So I was soaking in everything I could, except they wouldn't allow you to take computer classes or anything such as that because you were going to die there. Why would they spend their money on somebody that, isn't going to be in the free world to utilize those techniques and that learning? So short timers got to utilize those. So that's why technology is still a little challenging out here.
Right. And it changes a lot.
Yes, I noticed.
So how long have you been, long ago was it when you were released?
December 20th, 2017.
Wow. That's still, it seems like a short time, but still, it's just shocking what you had to go for me.
Right.
So did you have a roommate at all?
We did have cellmates. However, like I mentioned earlier about starting an honor dorm for lifers, I made a deal with the warden. I said, okay, I will help you set up this honor dorm that you're wanting, this honor wing, under one condition. We had the Puppies for Parole program at the time, and I was a dog trainer. And I said, if I can have a dog as my roommate instead of a person, then that's what I want to help you set up this honor dorm.
Oh, I love how you negotiated.
I learned.
You learned it. That is, I love that you had a dog as your cellmate. I know I said roommate earlier, but I love that you have that. Dogs are so, I think, very helpful to us humans.
Oh, yes.
Very helpful. And as a dog trainer, I'm very impressed with that just because I'm a dog lover.
Ah, yes. We had fun with them, because in prison you can't touch individuals. Individuals can't touch you. Whenever you're there for visits, you can get a hug coming in and a hug going out. So when you get a dog, it's like you can love on that dog. You can just get so connected to that dog. And it's heartbreaking whenever somebody adopts the dog, because it's like a piece of you is leaving again and you're missing that family, that little piece of family and an animal that you were able to have for a while. So I got to have a dog as my roommate. And so that was worth freedom.
So the dogs that you trained, were they from shelters?
They were. Yes, they were rescue dogs. And so we had trainers come in and teach us, and then we would take it from there, just like fitness training. We had trainers fly in from California to do that with us, and then we became certified.
I love this perspective. Again, you're pulling out the positive part of what you're dealing with. You made it work. You made it.
Yes.
You were helping these dogs, and these dogs eventually were able to be adopted. And,
yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm just blows my mind. I think I didn't know that.
Yes.
That was me. That's right.
We had the first training, and let me tell you, Bridget, I was scared to death of dogs when they came and said, Judy would like to pick you as one of the trainers, or to be in the dog program, to become a trainer. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I'm scared to death of dogs. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Because I couldn't say no. This was a big opportunity. So whenever they brought the trainer in from outside, I was sitting by the door. And so she comes in, walks in the door, and has a huge Rottweiler. Oh my gosh, kid, my heart started racing. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I've always heard that dogs can sense when you're fearful. So she said, okay, I would like to show you some techniques on how to do certain things, and I would like to have a volunteer. Well, I don't know what made me do it, but my hand shot up and she said, okay, come on up here. And I thought, okay, I'm going to make it or break it here. you know? And so I got up there and I started interacting with this dog, and kid, it was like the fear just started subsiding. And I was calm about it. I was peaceful about it. And I got over my fear of dogs.
Oh, that's great. And you
Yeah.
helped in the future. They helped you. And that's kind of
Yes.
example of why that connection with the dogs or animals in general. I love animals.
Yeah. Yes. And so I do too now. I love dogs and I have no fear of them. So that's why this journey has been such an eye-opener. Such amazing things have happened during this, regardless of where I had to learn them. We all have a purpose in life, I believe. I believe we were created for a purpose.
Yes.
And I'm fortunate that I was able to find my purpose, why I was created.
You also now you're an advocate too. What I love advocacy too because you had the experience, and so that's why your story is important. So you're advocating also, my understanding, for other mothers.
Yeah.
So how are you helping them?
Okay. So whenever I was incarcerated, we didn't have a defense for battered women when they went to trial for killing their abusers. So we worked to get legislators to come inside and have hearings on a battered women's syndrome bill, where that would give them a defense whenever they went to trial. And they would hear all the evidence. So these women would get either found not guilty or get a lesser sentence. So I was starting, to understand how bills were passed, how all of this happened, and became law. And so I continued with politicians while I was inside crafting bills and have them come to visit me and say, here, would you sponsor this bill? This is for so-and-so or whatever. And we did get the battered women's bill passed in the state of Missouri. So it is now a defense for abused and domestic violence. But women needed to understand. I started parenting classes. I started programs for mothers and children. And so it was very important because I was always very close to my children. And whenever I got home, I thought, I'm going to continue this. I'm going to still work on getting these mothers out of prison. And so another lifer friend of mine, she was just released December 24 on the same day, December 20th, after she served a lot of years. And I'd been advocating for her through the governor's office and meeting with them. And now we're working on a survivor's bill to help those that have any form of abuse in their history that they can prove through police reports, medical reports, eyewitnesses, and they can get their sentence reduced now. And so that's in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. So we're advocating for that. And it just passed in Oklahoma. So I look for it to pass in Missouri. And another thing that I'm able to do to help offenders when they come home is I now work for Catholic Charities. So they walk in the door, and after they're home on parole, and they can come to us and we can help them with housing. We can help them with food, hygiene, give them all kinds of resources and get them on their feet and get them a job. So, I just like to help them any way I can.
Well, because you went through some tough stuff.
Yes.
And I think it's really great what you're doing because we need more people like you. You're a great example of what you went through, but then you built up a good reputation. And it makes me think that you could be an attorney just because. But I think your advocacy is more important because of your experience and dealing with all the different aspects. There's so much in the legal system that a lot of us are not aware of.
Right.
And it's very, very informative of what you're sharing here. And I guess the one last question I want to ask you is, for those that are listening, what do you think would be the one big takeaway for them? I know there's a lot to narrow down, but what do you think is the one takeaway for them?
I think the one big takeaway, Brittany, is in when the light finds us, is that you can be anything you choose to be. You have to put the work into it. I'm not going to say it's easy, but you can control where your life goes and take control of that. Love yourself enough to be the best you that you can be, so you can be the best for everybody else. You have to start with you first. So love yourself, be happy for who you are. And if you're not happy with what you are, then you need to take a different turn and change that.
I think my takeaway from you is you're very courageous, and you have a courageous voice.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's important, again, the younger generation to understand that you, like what you just said, you have a choice.
Right.
It's we're not destined to be losers.
Right. Right. And you know what's so funny is we had 2 teenage volunteers, sophomores from high school, come and volunteer at the agency last week. And they said, Judy, we've pre-ordered your book from Amazon, and they're teenagers. And I said, well, you're really young to be interested in something like this. They said, oh my gosh. She started crying, one of them did, and said, this book is going to help me so much in my life, because I'm going to look back and think, you know what, this woman did this, 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 and here's what she was facing. And if she can do that, I can do this.
Right. It is. That's why books are so important, and sharing stories are so important.
Mm-hmm.
And I love, I don't know, I should say I love, but you're very courageous, and you're using you didn't lose your faith. Right?
No.
And I think that help you follow the light. Is that the right word?
Yeah, when the light finds us.
Yes,
And
right.
it did show me the light, because it showed me, you know what, God is with us every day, all day long, and he shows us so many signs, and we are so busy with our life we don't follow them.
And you have to be open to looking for it. Right?
Yes. Yes.
A lot of people ignore it, and they make excuses, and you didn't make any excuses. And I think this is a really great, I look forward to this book. Can you share where people can learn more about you? Is there other than just the book? Yeah.
Well, whenever you get the book, then you'll find a link in there where you can go and connect with me. And I would love to go out and speak anywhere that you want me to go, and help anybody that I can help with whatever their situation is.
I like that. Again, her book is called When the Light Finds Us, and I will share the link in the description. And I really appreciate your time, Judy, and your courage.
Thank you, Brittany. It's been an honor to be here. I appreciate this.
You're a great role model. Thanks for listening, everybody.